This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. Hey guys, before we jump into the episode, I wanted to let you know it is brought to you by Revenova, the official TMS provider for the Freight Coach. You guys, I've been a broker for a long time, and the tools that are at your disposal with Revenova help you eliminate bouncing between systems, which improves your accuracy when you are managing multiple tasks throughout your workday. Plus, it's built into the Salesforce cloud, so your CRM is fully integrated with your TMS, eliminating yet another silo. In today's day and age, you are definitely concerned about the safety of your data. With Revenova, it's fully protected. They have cutting-edge security that keeps your information safe so you can focus on what matters most, and that's growing your business. Speaking of growing your business, with Rate and Lane IQ, you get real-time pricing and route recommendations, helping you optimize costs and improve operational efficiencies, which ultimately helps you make smarter decisions. If you are like me and have recurring shipments from non-EDI customers, they have intuitive cloning features that let you easily replicate previous shipments, saving both shipper and carrier rates with just a few taps. If you are ready to learn more, visit www.revenova.com to request a demo. Just do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I do say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals because at the end of the day, you guys, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Tuesday, everybody. I got a very special guest for you guys today. We're going to be talking about why people fail at prospecting. But most importantly, you guys, like, where to start. I think that, when you're out on social media, and this isn't just a freight thing, you only see a highlight reel. You don't necessarily see the system that people follow day in and day out for sometimes years on end to build up a sustainable book of business. And we're going to kind of break that down. But my team has also reminded me that I need to bring this stuff up at the beginning of the show as well as at the end of the show. So if you get value in what you hear today, you guys, and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show. And if you're feeling really ambitious after this one, rank the show on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see value as well. All right. With that being said, the man, the myth, the legend, my good brother, Cam, back on the show to break down. Dude, we're talking about a completely different subject than what we normally do. You're usually my go-to for insurance, but talking over these last couple of months, we've just been like, man, because you've been self-employed since 2007, so it's like you've been out here, you've built a sales team, you're passionate about business development, and I wanted to, we kind of came to the conclusion, like, dude, let's just start talking about the systems and the processes that we've both kind of utilized to build books of businesses over the years.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And yeah, I started, I guess fortunate looking back now. I don't know what I was thinking when I did it, but when I turned 20, I got into sales and it was commission only. So I've been commissioned only since 20 years old. And so coming on, what's that, man, almost 20 years now. That's crazy. Here in a couple short years. But so for me, it's awesome. And in the early stages, kind of ignorance was bliss. And it was like, man, it was like Wolf of Wall Street. Just pick up a phone and dial and
Mhm.
find, figure out who I needed to call, what I wanted to do, and then just start hammering the phones early on because I didn't know any better. And it was awesome, man. That kind of set the stage for that. But, as because you've been commissioned only as well, early on sucks, dude. Like it was a grind, and you get wins. Thank God I got some big wins early. That's what hooked me. But then you go through these valleys where it's like, dude, I'm never going to land a client. I'm never going to get an appointment. I'm broke. Like, your family's like, dude, you're working, 80 hours a week and you made $800 for the month or whatever it was. I'm just kind of talking, but that's the realistic expectation and some of that. So I ended up, doing some construction jobs early on because I did construction and through high school. And then I bartended probably until I want to say 24, 25, I think is when we had kiddos, and I was like, all right, I'm done, so.
Dude, and like, same here, right? Like when I started out, in my business, and like I say, I'm a glutton for punishment. I really enjoy starting stuff when I have like no customers. I think it's just fantastic. I'm being highly sarcastic when I say that, but it's the truth, right? All the businesses that I've started, I've done 3 of them now. All of them had 0 customers, 0 revenue. It was nothing but an idea. And it's I got some exciting stuff to kind of say here in a few months, but like as of right now, when I started out though back in 2020, dude, like I delivered pizzas for the first like 8 months that I was doing this because like I have a family to feed, like, and then furthermore, I needed to buy stuff for my business and I didn't have any money. I had a little bit of savings. So it was one of those things where, when you're starting out, I almost think it's easier to start out when you have nothing than when you have something, out there because like there's that comfort. And now this isn't for everybody. And I'm not advocating you guys to like blow up your revenue streams or like blow up your business, anything like that. I'm just saying like there's a different mentality when you have nothing. There's a different like drive that you possess that you're like, boom, I'm going out there. And then you do experience a little bit of success because if you are putting in that work, inevitably you're going to get customers, right? Like you're
Yep.
going to find some business. But, I want to talk about here, Cam, like what is it like? Why do you think sales reps fail? And then for those of you who can't see Cam on the screen here, he sells his company, his business, they do trucking insurance and insurance of all walks. So he's on a different side of the industry, but him and I always talk, Cam's a good friend of mine. We chat off the air a lot too. And it's like, there's so many parallels between insurance sales and freight brokering.
Correct. Yeah. And actually it's funny because a lot of folks have tried to recruit me to come move freight and stuff too, just with connections. And honestly, like you get paid based on a book of business and reoccurring revenue via lanes and contracts customers. So it's very similar. And I've been, obviously coming 20 years like you, a glutton for punishment and a student of the game for sales. So I've read every book. What I do love to do, I dropped out of school. So to me, like sales was the option. It's like, what else am I going to do? At this point, I'm very unemployable. Like nobody would ever hire me. So it's like, all right, sales it is. I'm on my own. But, a lot of that came naturally early on and I didn't realize it, but I had the ability to pick up the phone, be charismatic, have a lot of energy, be able to kind of mirror folks and stuff like when you're doing cold calls and that kind of thing. And I didn't realize what I was doing because now I've read some books and I was like, oh, there's actually labels and terms and there's teachings for all this kind of stuff that I just naturally did. But I think that plays a lot of it. And the most valuable thing that I took early on, because me and a buddy got into insurance and sales together. Well, his cousin is who kind of introduced us, got us in. She actually helped us get set up in like a situation where we can get contracts and stuff. She was focused in niche clientele, which at the time was construction and contractors. So for me, 07, 08, was a terrible time for the economy, if you guys can think back or those that remember. And that's what I came into. So I was trying to sell contractors, construction insurance, and actually trucking insurance, which is funny. But in the hardest time you could ever try to do that, like people are shutting their doors. Like it was a terrible time to cold call. But the beauty was I didn't know. Like I was like, I was too poor to know there was a recession going on. Like I had no idea anything was happening. So I'm like, yeah, kind of hammering. But out of that though, the most valuable thing I found was like finding a niche, right? So like establishing who your client is, what value you can bring to that. So like for my salespeople coming in, part of the process actually is you would create a business plan. Doesn't have to be crazy, 1-2 page business plan. But in that, there's a couple of things I want identified. And one is your ideal client, or who you want to work with. And I want to work with people I like, I don't want to just chase money or something like that. Like I'm working with an industry or folks that I truly and genuinely get along with. And then second is like, why, right? Like, why? What's your reason to do what you're doing every day? But because without that, man, getting up and getting rejected, getting no's, getting cussed at, the door slammed in your face, just crazy things, right? That we all experience as door-to-door cold calls or sales in general, and the stigma that comes with it. Like you have to persevere through that. And so those were super valuable things to me that I took from that early experience that kind of carried with to this point. And now obviously it's refined exponentially since then. But
I look at it as I talk about the niche often on this show, and especially inside of freight. And I understand everybody's methodology out there, right? Like I get it in like we need to go after everything. We're freight brokers. We move anything. We move everything. And that did work at one point in time. Early on in my career, you could do that, right? Because there wasn't as many freight brokers. Yes, there's always been competition, but there wasn't as many freight brokers. There wasn't as much information out there. And, you could get a person on the phone, have a decent conversation, and they'd give you like a prove it style shipment. Not everywhere, right? But like now selling post COVID, it's been a lot different, man. And it's like, and I, having to restart my book of business from nothing, it was very telling right away. Like I gotta be very hyper focused on one thing. And, I chose open deck and heavy haul because that's where I have the most fun, right? Like I have the most fun in that. I am every letter, ADD, OCD, whatever the fuck you want to call it, type personality. So like I need different. I get very bored. And like I moved a lot of food and beverage early on in my career, and it was all 20 pallets, 40,000 pounds. Like, don't get me wrong, as a business owner, I do just about anything for that freight right now. But for like my ping pong ball brain, I need shit to be different. But I go after that because like I've just noticed when I'm cold calling and prospecting people right now, my conversation's different because like I've gamified it in my head because I have insecurities and I have shit that goes wrong in my day, just like everybody else, but I've gamified it, right? I gamified it where if I'm calling somebody and they reject me, but they don't use flatbeds for like the primarily method of shipping their freight, no harm, no foul, right? Like I'm on to the next one. But one thing that I'm looking back now, I wish I would have implemented a system on like day one of like, hey, you're going to make 10 calls today, no matter what. Like it does not matter, because I think like when you're riding that emotional roller coaster early on, it's really easy to do shit when you're motivated. But are you going to show up when the last thing you want to do is pick up the phone and you've just been told no 100 straight times and stuff like that, right? So it's like for me, it becomes more digestible, Cam. When I'm out there, I'm like, all right, I'm going to make 40 cold calls today. They're all going to be flatbed shippers or potentially flatbed shippers. I have that confidence to know like I can execute this at a high level, but I got to follow that, right? Because it's like you also brought up a point earlier about like inevitably you get a little bit of success and then you stop, right? Because it's that comfort and like we're creatures of comfort overall. So it's like for me, it's so important. Choose one avenue and then, scale it back a little bit further. What region do you want to operate in? I feel like a lot of individuals out there grossly underestimate how much opportunity is where they live and how much more effective it is to go out there and build a book of business around that, right? Like we are extremely strong in the Western 11, right? Like I'm located here in Arizona. Our busiest shippers are in Arizona and Colorado. We are very, very strong in that area. And then we also operate in the Southeast. And that was the first customer I onboarded as a broker out of my own here. They were located in the Southeast. So that's kind of our areas that we go after to develop business. And ironically, it matches up because if you've ever brokered freight on the West Coast, you understand every single decision maker is on the East Coast, essentially, because everything out West is a satellite location. But I look at it is like I'm having the same conversation time and time again, because like I need a system to follow. Most sales reps, whether you're prospecting, whatever that looks like, you need a system to where it's like, I got that cold call power hour. And I do this every single morning from 7 a.m. Pacific to 8 a.m. Pacific. I'm locked in and I'm just cold calling. I can get like 30 dials rocked out in that hour every single time.
Yeah, I think for me, a system is absolutely critical, and it's something that you have to develop. And I think one of the, or some of the key major things to consider when you guys or gals are looking at putting together a system, the business plan, the reasoning, that stuff's going to keep you motivated and keep you moving. Identifying your ideal client, because you can spend a lot of time making calls for the sake of making calls just to do it and not getting anywhere, right? Because you're not after your ideal one. Two is, why are you making the calls? Are you trying to get a close on the phone real time? Or are you trying to set appointments? So if you're trying to set appointments, literally you're just trying to get on the phone to pick it up to decide if this person's a good fit to set the appointment. Because like they may or may not bite on that call. For our world, it's going to be similar, where it might take 4, 5, 6, 12 conversations in person, whatever, to get the deal closed. Like I'm just trying to see if we're a good fit, get a chemistry going. So that's another thing. And then from that, tracking the things that are going to produce results versus like the outcome is huge. So for me, correct, I'm going to set some time blocks. I'm going to break it back down however I need to think of it to quantify it. But it's going to be like, for me, okay, I need, 5 good conversations today. Like that's going to be the metric. So that might take 5 calls. That might take 50 calls. That might take this. But whatever I'm going to do, that's going to be priorities. Because as a salesperson, you make money on revenue generating things, sales primarily, right? Obviously, ongoing relationships and referrals and networking and that kind of stuff are up there.
We're talking about
correct. But like right when you start, you make money on those things. That should take 80-90% of your time. And it's going to take a lot more than you think it's going to take. So when you start in sales, at least from my experience, you're working almost 2 jobs to make part-time money. It's crazy. People look at you and they're like, dude, what are you doing? But the reality is it takes that to get the momentum, to get the skill set, to get built, to get you to where you can actually close. I kind of look at it, and this is I guess like an analogy I would use. Think of like hunters, right? When you first start hunting, you have no experience, no skill, you're starving. You're just going to eat bark and beetles and bugs and mud and whatever you can to find nourishment, because you have no skill set. You see the animals, but you can't get them. Then as you get more skilled, you step over the small game and the things you don't want, and you start going after bigger game that's nourishing. You're a little bit more skilled. And then obviously onto trophy hunting or whatever it is you're going to take that as. But that all comes from skills, reps at bat, learning, review of what you've done with a system and a process. So if you follow that process, you follow a discipline schedule, and you can track exactly what you're doing, whether that's emails, cold calls, LinkedIn messages, sending video messages via LinkedIn, getting introductions, trying to find referral partners. You're trying to do social media, establish yourself as an expert with a show, and put out content to educate and help people, right? The way you get reciprocation is you help others. So anything you can do going into that to help others, and you're not self-serving there, people will reciprocate. And the cool thing is successful people want to help other people, typically. So if you ask somebody, I call my buddy, let's call Freight Coach, hey dude, I have a opportunity, I can bring on a new customer, here's what I'm looking for, do you have anybody that you think that you can introduce me to? Chris I'm guessing you'd be like, absolutely dude, I got you, let me introduce, if you had it, you're gonna try to help me. So thinking of like all those things to work into a schedule, that's been the biggest difference maker for me, is like action, consistency, and discipline with block scheduling, having a process, having the ideal client. Love you. Sorry, kids going to school. it has been the biggest kind of separator for me that I've seen consistently. Because I was on my own in sales, then I joined a firm, got in there, and I was consistently the top producer, right? I sold the most, I did that, and I kind of looked at what others were doing. Well, and a lot of the times, and I look at competition, or I look around, they either don't know what to do, or they sit there and aggressively wait for the phone to ring because they kind of maybe got lazy or whatever the issue was, where it's like, oh, I just sit here and I they take pride in not prospecting. It's really funny to me. I don't cold call. I don't have to do any of that. And they think it's kind of a badge to them. And I guess to them it is. I mean, I don't think that way, but
yeah, I don't either. I don't wait because, and it's like, and I feel like there's a lot of individuals out there who do, right? They're like, oh, I like, they're going to wait for opportunities to fall into their lap. And it just does not exist, right? Like, you have to create every single opportunity. And, for those of you who have made it this far in the episode and you're in the freight space, for example, particularly inside of freight brokerage, here's just some rough numbers that are publicly available. All right. And this is why, again, this is another reason why I say choose a niche and go after it, because drive-in, for example, there's $200 billion of available freight to freight brokers just in drive-in alone. Refrigerated, estimated between 60 and 80 billion. Okay. Flatbed and specialized, between 50 and 70 billion. Okay. So if you're looking at that, why is there a need to go after anything else? Right. And like, if you built $100 million business, which is massive, all right, like, no matter what anybody says, it's massive. That's 0.2% of the flatbed market right there, right? Like, that's not even 1%. So it's like, again, the opportunities that are out there, this is why I'm all about just really choosing that one thing and going after. And especially when you're starting out, because it's like, you need to be having that same conversation, because you need that confidence to come through. And especially if you've never moved freight before, or you've never sold whatever product you are now hired to sell, you need to build that system around it. And that's why, like, dude, I'm such a massive proponent and like small incremental bumps to your action and productivity to build that system out. Because I feel like, again, most organizations are like, you need to make 100 cold calls a day. And if we're going back and it's like, and you've never made cold calls before, you'll do it for a few days, but then eventually you're going to be like, that lack of confidence is going to come through, and you're going to not want to do it. Right. So it's like, for me, when you're starting out, the real track of progress, when you're starting from zero, make 25 cold calls and track how long it takes you to make. All right. If it took you 2 hours, because I don't care what anybody says, that phone to most people is like a fucking 100-pound cinder block. All right. They do not want to pick it up and start making that outreach. Right. Do that and then measure that. All right. So do 25 cold calls in a day and see how long it takes. And then once you eventually get into that system, all right, it's going to take you 30 minutes or 45 minutes to make those 25 cold calls, right? When you get really effective. But all I'm saying is if it takes you 3 hours, once it gets down to 2 hours and you have no business, add 5. All right. Yeah. Then go up to 30 and then build that up and ratchet that up, because before you know it, as a sales rep, you should be making, when you have no business, no less than 50 to 60 cold calls in a day. And then as long as they're in your target market, all right? Because I would rather have my team making 60 cold calls to flatbed prospects every single day, all day, than make 100 dials and like 30 of them don't even move freight and shit like that. Like, we're wasting dials, because every rep is important. And especially when you're building, because we all are on that clock, Cam, that you brought up, especially if you don't have any money coming in, you're on a clock of, when are you going to say fuck it and go and get a W-2 or go out and get a salary somewhere? So it's like, that's my thing, where it's like, you got to go out there and choose that number and then just solely throw everything at that 25, 30 calls a day, whatever it is. And then if it takes you 3 hours, when that progress inevitably hits and you're down to 2, then ratchet that up and then go after it.
Yeah, or more. I don't think a lot of people know what a good grind actually looks like. Now, there's killers out there. I work with them every day and I see them. But like, a lot of people think they made 5 calls, had 3 conversations, and they're like, that was a good day. And it's like, no, it's not, because that doesn't mean anything. But I think let's get past kind of the cold calls, because I think like obviously they should be motivated to pick up a phone. You should be working to get better, hone your skills, maybe take a little education, read Never Split the Difference. It's a great book. It's not directly sales, but it's negotiation. It'll help you in communication. But for me also, the organization piece is going to be key. So a simple CRM, you can go to freaking HubSpot and get a free CRM.
Yep.
You can use an Excel sheet. I don't care what you do. Organization is going to be key. So you have your ideal clients, you load them in there. Like, let's just, the analogy I look at, and early on it's much looser, but as you get bigger and evolve, it's like a round table approach. You got a round table, 10 chairs, 9 of the chairs are filled with your best customers. The person that you're talking to, do they deserve a seat at that table and deserve your time, resources, energy, and what you bring? Because if you don't bring that confidence and swagger like Conor McGregor, where you're an equal to these people, they puppet you, right? Like, that's a lot of salespeople. They want to say, and they want to kind of bend to whatever to get the sale, but people don't respect that. People respect value in you being equal and being that authority figure. So I think knowing what you bring to the table, the value you offer, how you can best serve this person. Because when you get somebody, okay, let's say, Chris, I'm new, I start, I make the calls, I get someone that says I'm interested. Well, now if I wasn't prepared on what I was going to say, what are you going to do? You're going to fucking fumble over your words. And I'm, you know, I got a website, you know, we got it. You say all this stuff because your brain's like, oh shit, like somebody's talking to me, and you freak out. Like, so I think just having those things in play, understanding role playing is huge. It's kind of corny, and I know a lot of people don't like it, but you wouldn't get into professional basketball game and not practice unless you're Allen Iverson. But like, then you get in the game, like you rep for that thing. The other thing, I think, with the analogy of sports, if you have a system, you can use a dialer, you can use a VoIP phone, you can use whatever, you can record those calls. I highly recommend you do. Hell, record yourself on a Loom video or whatever as you're doing it, smiling, standing up, having energy, getting motivated to do it, go a long way because it comes through the phone. But like, most importantly, and this is where the most value can come from, is listen to your calls. Go back and listen, stop and reflect for a moment. Man, what did I say? What went wrong? What could I have done different if I said this? Because all it is open loop questioning, having a conversation, figuring out if potentially we're a good fit, and not trying to vomit a ton of value on the person. Because if I just come to you and I'm pushing and vomit and da-da-da-da-da, you're going to back away. Like, it seems needy. You seem super clingy. Like, I'm like, dude, what? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know a good salesperson when you hear one. You really do. So like, that is a developed skill for most. So you work on that, you refine that, you reflect on that, you study, you know, like, you got to take time to get better and invest in yourself. So
I agree, man. And I think like that like the underlying factor that hits most individuals is their willingness to deal with the pain of rejection that comes along with developing a book of business and putting in the necessary reps, right? Like, I think like that's a very big deterrent out there. And especially when it looks like, you know, the majority of people who post about sales, they have a really fancy camera, kind of like this one. They have a really fancy mic, kind of like this one. But like, they're trying to put a facade out there that it's not challenging, right? Like, it's been very challenging for me. This has been the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life, is build a couple of businesses from scratch with nothing, right? And my vision, my direction has changed with taking action, because it's like I'm getting out there and I'm getting those reps that you're talking about, Cam, that, hey, I got the prospect on the phone, I fumbled it. Well, did I fumble it because I was calling a food shipper on one, and then I went to, and all of a sudden this guy's a flatbed shipper, and then I fumbled it because like I had lost my cadence, right? So it's like, you got to study that stuff out there and really listen to it, because again, like, ultimately, you guys, to deduce it down to as simple a form, when you're getting a business off the ground, it's a volume game. All right. It is the amount of outputs you are willing to give before you get that first yes that comes along with it. And I'm trying to help expedite this for you guys out there who are in the freight game and listening to this. The more conversations you have on a singular focus early on, that confidence is going to come through. Those conversations that Cam brought up are the ability to like, or like the fumbling aspect of it is going to be severely reduced when the back of your brain kicks in. You're like, fuck, I've been here before. Boom, I said this last time, now I'm going to say this. And it's just that rep that comes along with it. So it's like, to me, this is why the majority of sales reps will fail at prospecting. They're way too scattered, They're all over the board. And then inevitably that rejection bug gets to them and they say, fuck it. And they walk away. Like it is such an endurance sport early on in building up something that I think a lot of people, they see the end results of some and they think that only took, like you said, Cam, 5 calls. A lot of the most successful people that I know have been working in this industry and doing this job for 15, 20 years. And a lot of them, it took 10 years to get those core customers that they have now worked with for the past 5 or so years. But it took a very long time to develop that. All right. So it's like when you're starting out with nothing, all right, you need a singular focus. You need consistent, similar conversations day in and day out, because inevitably that leads to that confidence, right? Like now, dude, when I get hung up on, dude, that doesn't throw me off at all. I actually start laughing. Like if I, like my little old cold call ruined your day where you're like, we're not fucking taking on any, and then click, I will literally start laughing to be like, dude,
I would call back and be like, hey, dude, we got disconnected. Is what I would do. That's me though.
I don't do that, man. I laugh, but I'm like, damn, dude, I hope whatever this guy's going through, they get over it because they can't be that miserable.
No, I mean, and you can break it up with humor. There's so many things that you can do within, but I think the most important is like, you have to have value. You got to believe in what you're bringing to the table. You got to believe that you're different, better, offer a solution, can make their life easier. You can make them more money, put yourself in their shoes. How can I help them? And, which ultimately is obviously move freight for them, their customer, for whatever the situation is in this case. It's kind of keeping all those things, putting it together, and then it works. And then, like you said, once it works, you've done it once, you saw the ball go in the hoop. You're like, oh, I've done that before. Great.
Yep.
I could do it again, and it's hard. It is hard. Rejection sucks. And like, if someone tells you that it's easy, which I think sometimes like people say that to themselves to kind of psych themselves out, but it's hard. Nobody likes getting rejected. Like it's an emotional response. It triggers something in you. Like you feel it when it happens, like something rushes over you. And like my response is either laugh, which probably internally you're like, dude, fuck you. You don't want to work with me? Like really? But at the same time, like if you didn't laugh, it's like on to the next opportunity, as they say, for no. But you don't want to look for no either. I feel like some people in sales do that. They get through the calls just to get through the calls, to check it off and say, dude, I got through the calls. I couldn't get it. Yeah. And that, you know what I mean? There's a mentality thing there. So that's why I like actions based on conversations and things that actually drive you towards what the goal is or what you're trying to accomplish, over saying, hey, I'm going to make 10 calls or I'm going to do this. No, I want to have 5 conversations. I don't care how I get them, but that's what like I got to focus on. And who do I have to become? What do I have to do in order to do it? How can I get there? Who can I help to help me get there, or whatever that looks like, right?
Yeah. So no, I agree, man. So if you guys made it this far, our big thing for you guys to follow, choose an ideal customer. All right. Who do you want to go after? Have a system, a set number of calls that you're going to get every single day, and then have that conversation. And again, your reps are your progress. All right. The more conversations you have, the more confidence you're going to gain out there and do that. And Cam, I think the next time you come on, dude, I'll have to have you on next month. Let's talk about deep selling once you win the business, right? Like how do you navigate that crucial, like beginning stages of, hey, we've onboarded the customer. Now what? So I think that'd be a good topic and following up on this, man. But Cam, how does anybody reach out to you to find out more about what you got going on?
I think usually they just call you.
That's true.
Usually what they do. Cameron at valleytruckinginsurance.com, or find me on LinkedIn or the website or whatever. And I'm happy to chat too. Like anyone wants to chop it up on business, process, systems, SOPs, sales, like anything, dude. Don't call me for just insurance, dude. I'm happy to help any way I can. So I'm here. So
appreciate it, man. If you guys can't find Cam, hit me up. I'll gladly put you guys in contact with him. But that's going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard, subscribe to the show, you guys. And if you're feeling really ambitious after this one, rank the show on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out money.